Welcome to the show. We hope you have a blast. Thanks for making time for the Dealer Talk podcast. Another business leader, here's a penny for your thoughts. This ain't a regular conversation, baby. This that Dealer Talk.
And we're live. Hey, everybody. Our very first LinkedIn Live. Welcome to the Dealer Talk podcast. This is not normally how I start the show, but man, I'm super excited. A couple of cool things today. So we're doing our first live, and we have a repeat guest on the show, and we have a co-host. So this should be fun. Max, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Excited for this one. And Miss Charity Ann, thank you for co-hosting with me on a second episode this season.
I know, twice.
Yeah. So, all right, man. So we typically kick things off with a background. So tell us about what you've been up to, because we've already done that on the first session we did.
So, I've been doing the same thing. I do two things. I help car dealers make money through F&I. And in parallel, I help them keep the money they make through comprehensive compliance. Because usually dealers get in trouble with law enforcement agencies via F&I department. That's where, most problems occur. So in a way, I'm able to balance it out where they can be profitable, where they can structure, a reinsurance type of deal, for example, with retention-based F&I products. But at the same time, I provide training, and especially compliance training. So when they do sell these products, they do it correctly, and they don't get the dealer principal in trouble.
Right on. So, Charity, how about you? Give us a little bit of background on you too, because
Okay. So started as a receptionist and worked my way up at a CJDR store, and then worked my way up. Now I'm a BD manager over at a Toyota store. Been in the business like 7 years.
Right on. Well, welcome to you both. This should be a fun session. So let's kind of keep that trend on compliance. Have you seen anything crazy happening in that department since last year and everything that's been going on? Or
so there's several factors at play, and one of them is very unfortunate because nobody likes car dealers, right? Just the fact of life. Right. And, when somebody files a complaint, it doesn't matter if they file it with a state attorney general's office or a federal trade commission, wherever they file it, there's almost an automatic assumption that the dealer is at fault. Right. And it's not necessarily, an honest assessment. Sometimes dealers are at fault and sometimes they're not. Sometimes, customers, also do things that are a little crazy. I'm sure you heard from many dealers that, customers might file, write a negative review online without even trying to buy a car. Right from the showroom, they're like on their phone, saying this dealer is that and this dealer is this. So it goes both ways, but at the end of the day, I think there are two types of dealers, right? There are dealers that are proactive about compliance, and there are dealers that are reactive about compliance. So if you happen to be a proactive dealer, the probability of you getting in trouble is very, very low, right? Because being proactive means that you invest time and money to train everybody in your dealership. Right? If you're being a reactive dealer, that means that you initially got in trouble, and as a reaction, you decided to implement a compliance procedure moving forward. And that usually is not as effective as being proactive.
But I agree with that in the sense that, obviously if the dealers if they have that in mind of, making sure that they don't have exposure, then obviously they're ahead of the game. But how do you feel that that's playing out right now during these times? Do you think, because here's here's kind of what I see on my end, and I've said it multiple times this season, is that we've seen obviously record months and some really good things. But as those have been taking place, I've also seen a lot of negative reviews increasing. And so I wonder if, because of the current situation, if we're maybe a little bit more exposed just in general as an industry, and therefore maybe we need to be paying a little bit closer attention to compliance. I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think what you're saying is that car dealers are going through record-breaking profits, right? And
Sure.
when you go through record-breaking profits, the target on your back gets bigger and bigger. Right. And there's so many agencies out there that are looking to find car dealers, right? Because this is a low-hanging fruit, right? Because again, the presumption is that the dealer is always guilty, right? And unfortunately, most dealers are not prepared in terms of compliance when it comes to an investigation. So I think you're right, and there will be more resources deployed either by the local, state, or federal government to go after car dealers, because everybody knows, that their net profits, probably doubled or tripled in some cases.
Right.
So there's a lot of money to go around.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. I wonder. So for the in particular for the decision makers that happen to catch this episode, what would be the step one? I mean, and you and I have had this conversation offline, and dealers and things that we've talked about potentially partnering up with. But where do you think we should start? Do you think that should we be doing audits on our stores on a regular basis, maybe quarterly, maybe twice a year, if we've never even had the conversations of compliance, or if we don't really even know where we fall in the spectrum? Should that be step number one?
So I think step number one is to make a commitment at the dealer principal level that you want your organization to do the right thing. And oftentimes that means to do it in a compliant way, not just, in a right way morally. And you're right. In order for you to find out where you stand, you need to draw a line in the sand. And the best way to do it is maybe to conduct an audit and to understand if you have effective policies and procedures in place, if you have ongoing training, if you have onboarding when it comes to compliance, and make a decision based on the result of that audit. And then the second step would be to train everybody. Because again, unfortunately, in automotive retail in general, not just when it comes to compliance, right? We don't have an educational barrier, right? You can be a salesperson today, a sales manager tomorrow, a finance manager in 6 months, without ever going to school. And you're going to be trained by people on the job that were trained by other people on the job. And that's how, bad habits transcend generations. So we need to conduct some form of training in order to get everybody on the same page. And I think that once that's done, there have to be internal mechanisms to do internal audits, to do ongoing training, and to hold employees accountable.
So I think that, like you asked, if auditing is the first thing that should happen, and definitely think you have to know where you start. But a lot of times what happens is that we audit things and everybody gets punished, and then we go right back to where we were.
Exactly. And I started saying that the very first step is the commitment of the dealer principal to do the right thing. So unless that commitment exists, what Charity is talking about is exactly what's going to happen. We're going to do it once, we're going to make some scenes, do a little yelling, do a little screaming, and then we're going to go back.
Right.
So I love that, the training aspect, because with that repetition and keeping things kind of on the forefront, it just makes us better, right? How do we do that? Do we do that in person? Do we do it digitally? Is it a combination of the two? Like, I guess the real question is, has the technology allowed us to be more effective when it comes to that?
I think so. So the way we do it is that we have a learning management software that is cloud-based. So a dealership employee can access assigned courses via any device, be it a cell phone, an iPad, a laptop, a desktop, doesn't matter. And they can do it any time of the day. They can do it from work, they can do it from home. And they take their assigned courses, and then they have to take a test, because that's the true indication if they were paying attention, right? And they need to get an 80 or higher in order for them to pass the test. So we accomplish several things by doing it through online training. First and foremost, it's very accessible, it's inexpensive, and more importantly, we have an electronic paper trail. We can show who was actually taking the assigned courses versus people that never even logged in, because we track every single step in the system. So I think online training is a very good start, but it should be complemented with in-person training as well. And again, you can bring someone like me to do the in-person training, but at the end of the day, the best way to do it is to have your own internal compliance officer who's going to be there full time, and you can delegate this type of training on a regular basis to your own employee. I think that would be the best approach.
Right on. Yeah, no, it's great to be having this conversation, because I like I said, I feel like right now, and as things continue to stay the same, I think we're going to be, as an industry, just a little bit more exposed. And it'd be good to be, to your point, to be proactive about that. So, do you foresee anything, any new? I think the question is self-evident, but there's got to be new regulations when it comes to, because of COVID, right? Because I don't know, the way that dealers are maintaining their dealerships clean and things of that nature.
It'll be interesting to see when it comes to vaccine mandates, what it's going to do to the sales force, to the staffing of a dealership. Because let's say you have two dealers. One dealer wants to get his people vaccinated, the other one doesn't. The one that doesn't right away, has an amazing help onto that, right? If you don't want to get vaccinated, it can't work for me. And think about the technician shortage. If you can recruit a couple of technicians just because of the vaccine mandate, you're going to have an enormous advantage, right? Because at the end of the day, right, it's not just about selling cars. It's about servicing cars. It's about selling parts, and we have a technician shortage nationwide. So dealers are getting very creative to get people to work for them, with sign-on bonuses, with tool bonuses, retention bonuses, so it'll get interesting. But to your point about the new regulations, right? Unfortunately, I think a lot of dealers break the old existing regulations, that there is no need to create new ones. Right? I'll give you an example, like the safeguarding of non-public information. If I'm not mistaken, it has been around since 2003. So it's only been 18 years, and most dealers do not have an effective safeguards program in place in their dealership in 2021. So there's no need to create new regulations. You can just go after the existing ones.
Yeah, no, but I'm just thinking about how the current situation is going to create other. I don't want to say issues. That's not the right word, but other things that dealers are going to have to be paying attention to. And I wonder if that's going to be a long-term impact, or it's going to be something that we're just going to have to worry about for the next couple of years.
I think a huge impact is going to be, so if you look at the salespeople that started in car business during this pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
These people, I mean, talk about luck, right?
No clue, man.
These people don't know what a mini commission is, right? So imagine, when eventually the chip shortage is solved, right? And there's an abundance of inventory. These guys have no idea how to sell a car, because right now it's just, what's the sale technique? I got the car.
I have it. Yeah.
I have it. Right. And it's, and
I got your car.
right. And today it's $5,000 over list. But if you call tomorrow, it's $6,000 over list. That's the close. Right. So when there's an abundance of inventory, I think there will be a major exodus of people. They will be quitting because they will not be able to even wrap their brain around that you can get a $50 or $75 mini commission, and you actually have to work to sell a car. Like you have to go on a test drive, you have to do a walk around, you have to overcome objections. None of the things they've ever done in their career. And I think if dealers don't wake up to it, right. But I think dealers need to also realize that they're going to be in trouble, when a lot of people will be quitting. So you need to, you fix the roof when it's sunny outside, right? Not when it's raining. So this is the time to implement, a training program, to implement, all types of program in order for you to retain these people in the future.
Well, and it goes back to what we were talking about in the audits. Like management is so, in my experience, so reactionary. And why aren't you doing it right? Our numbers are really low. And you get those Friday morning meetings where everybody's just yelling at each other. And that's just going to, as soon as the inventory picks up, those meetings are going to get more and more often, because nobody's training anybody right now.
Right.
Well, but there's a couple of things I want to unpack there. First, do you think that we're going to go back to that, to high levels of, because I've had that conversation multiple times this season and different ends of the spectrum. Some people are speculating that yes, that it's going to go back. Some people are speculating that now that it's pretty much impossible for us to be able to go back to those levels of having several hundred units, at our stores. So first, what do you think about that? What's your prediction, or how are you seeing that?
I don't have a crystal ball, but I think I understand that whether it's an OEM or a dealership, right? They're both sales organizations, right? And their goal is to sell cars. And maybe a build-to-order system is much more profitable for the OEM, right? Because they can streamline their production, right? There's no spikes. But at the same time, you have to understand psychology of an American consumer, right? We are not wired to order cars. We're not wired to wait 6 to 8 weeks, An American consumer is very different from a European consumer. And in Europe, build to order is the way to buy a car. But in America, right, you want the car yesterday, not today.
See, no, I feel like that's kind of been the way it is, but I've run into a lot of customers recently who are like, well, I just ordered my Tesla, and so now I'm trying to make plans for my current vehicle and what I'm going to do for it, because 6 months from now, and that's more and more frequent that I hear that.
Well, but yes, so that's the thing. So I think that the thing that we forget is that this whole situation it hasn't been a month or two. It's been over a year. Mm-hmm. And what happens to the consumers get conditioned after a while. And so if it's more advantageous for the OEM, and hopefully, because this is my my wish, if there's anything to come out of this situation, is that at the end of this, dealers as a whole just are able to retain more gross, and they're able to make more money, because it's an industry that just gets beat all the time when it comes to that. So if it's good on those ends, and then we can get the customer used to doing it that way, then I think that it would be better for the industry overall. Not to mention what it would do. I mean, forget about digital retailing. Think about what it would do for customers fully transacting online at the dealership level and truly being able to compete with the Carvanas and the Vrooms. And I'm bringing it full circle to our first meeting,
Right.
or our first session, Max, where we talked heavily about Carvana and the impact. So I don't know. Do you agree with that? Like, if it stays on an ordering sort of a pathway, would it be more advantageous for us long term, considering where we are as a society?
I think in theory you're absolutely right. Right, it would be better for both, for the OEMs and for the profitability of the dealer. However, I'm seeing already that OEMs are reducing the margins because they know dealers are making a killing. They're already reducing the margin between invoice and MSRP. So OEM and the dealership is never on the same page. And then, somebody's going to blink first, right? And if I had to, make a bet, I'm going to say it's going to be Nissan, right? Because, that's zero self-control, right, as an organization. That's why they go after stair step and the market share, right? And they're going to blink first, and they're going to, give you a 90 to 120-day supply, right? And then somebody else in the corporate boardroom is going to panic, probably at Hyundai, right? And then it's going to trickle down, and before you know it, we're back. We're back.
Dang it.
We're back, a triple net loser, begging customers to buy a car. You'll see.
Yeah. I hope not. I mean, I honestly, like, I that's what I think is going to inevitably end up happening too, just because of if one does it and then the other one feels like they're at a disadvantage, then they're going to fall into that game. But man, do I hope that doesn't happen.
I'm with you because you're right. Dealers have been abused, for years and years and years. And finally, they can make a living,
So, what's really sad is I'm not going to obviously name any names, but I'm working with a group right now, and we're trying to do this promotion for next month where we are donating money, right? And in our closed door meetings, we have to have the conversation about, how are people going to react to this? Are they going to be like, oh, this is great. Look at what they're doing for the community. Or are they going to be like, oh, yeah, of course, you make all this money, or you know
That's
what I mean?
all you're giving?
Yeah, it's such a weird. And I don't think that any industry you would have those types of situations where you're trying to do something good for the community, and you have to have these conversations about, well, what are people going to say because we're donating money? It's just weird. It's a weird.
That's what I told you in the beginning. That's the preconceived notion. Everybody hates car dealers, and that's an outcome of that. And I wish, car dealers, meaning not individual dealers, but as a body, right? Whether it's done through NADA or through state dealer associations, I wish they would hire a public relations firm, not a marketing firm, and actually promote what they do for the community, what makes them good corporate neighbors, good corporate citizens, to change the perception, in the eyes of the consumer. And it doesn't matter, right, if you happen to be, a Kia dealer or a Mercedes dealer, right? The preconceived notion is the same. So if we can do that, I think it would be extremely, extremely effective. And remember, many, many years ago, there was a campaign that milk is good for you.
Yeah, the Got Milk thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't done by a particular milk manufacturer, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They just all got together and they said, "Hey, this is good for everybody. Let's roll."
Exactly.
So,
And that's what car business needs. And if we do that, then nobody's going to question, why are they donating money?
yeah. Max, we need to set that up, man.
I know, because everybody will win. It doesn't
Of
matter where
course.
you're located, what kind of franchise you have. Doesn't matter, right? We just need to have consumers understand that dealers are no different from any other local businesses.
Well, I'd say that they are, but in a positive way. The evidence of all the things of how ingrained dealerships are in their local communities is overwhelming, right? Like they just really, for the most part, I can't think of any dealer that I've ever worked for or been associated with that isn't donating money, that isn't doing charitable actions, that isn't helping out and reaching out to their community. Yes, it's good business, it's smart business, but they also do it because they care about where they are, right? And they care about the people that are supporting their business. And so, but it's not exposed. We don't expose that. We don't talk about those things. We don't do marketing campaigns to promote those initiatives and those efforts for the most part. We talk about, hey, I got the come get the deal of the month sort of a situation, but we don't talk about all the things that we do to support our local community. So
that's exactly right.
Wow, what a segue from compliance to so going back to this idea of the future, because I'm very, very interested in this, in what that's going to look like. The more I think about it, the better I think it would be just overall for the retail side of the business. Let's say that we wake up tomorrow, we know for sure that's the case. Right now, we can start thinking differently. Do you think that having that system of ordering less cars on the ground, obviously that's going to have an impact at the way that our store is structured, and I mean, one thing that occurs to me right away is that you would need less people, right? And so if that's the case, would it make sense at that point to fuse sales and make that a full on end-to-end process? So the person you start with is a person that runs, there's no more hands-off sort of a deal, right? It's like, your salesperson does everything. They do all your paperwork, they do the delivery, and you're with that person all the way through.
So, when I was young and naive, I would be like, yeah, of course, that's a great idea. Yeah. But now, I've been, I hit a brick wall many times, and I know that to accomplish that level of training where a salesperson can take a deal from cradle to grave, I mean, it's virtually impossible. There are organizations out there that are very successful doing that, but I think you can count them on one hand. It is an extremely complicated business because not every deal is a simple deal. There's trade-in, right? There is subprime credit. There's F&I. There's funding. There's understanding programs, where to submit the deal, whether it's going to this bank or that bank. And to me, the likelihood of a breakdown is much greater if you're going to try to train everybody to do that. And I like the separation of sales and F&I. I really do.
Why?
Because it forces the finance department to generate profit, right? Because they don't get paid on the front end of the deal.
But it's weird, man, as a consumer, right? Like, I've never understood that. Like, I mean, I get it. I understand the control part. I know why dealers do it that way, especially back when we weren't an efficient market where buyers and sellers didn't have the same access to information. I get that. I'm not saying that if there's not a reason. I also know that we've evolved, so much since those days. And so that part still seems a little, I don't know, outdated to me. Like really, you build this relationship that's based on trust in an industry that's full of distrust. And now you have this thing going, you're at that sweet spot with the customer. They trust you. They, you've done what you're supposed to do as a sales professional. And then you're going to be like, okay, Mr. Customer, here, I'm going to put you on with this dude or this lady or whatever, good luck. I don't know.
But you do that when you buy a house. You work with
Right.
a real estate
you
agent.
don't.
Yeah, you work with a real estate agent the whole time, and then you go sign papers with somebody else.
Yeah, but the real estate agent is like, okay, see you. The real
They
estate
set
agent
you
is
up.
there. They're involved in that process all the way. We're like, yeah, it just feels like we're like, okay, we're done.
So
right, but I think that you could totally like set them up for it. You could say, your sales guys could set people up for finance way better than they do.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna tie this back to Carvana, right? And Overroom, right? And if we're being honest with each other, right? What is the difference between the car dealer and Carvana? And the main difference is price transparency. And that's where consumers lose trust in dealerships, because dealers are not willing to give a price. Not on a website, not in a showroom. There's always this back and forth, and then you see dealers that get in trouble because they're charging additional fees, that were like never disclosed in the beginning. The distrust rarely is based on the F&I experience. In most cases, it's based on the sales experience.
I'm going to say something that's going to be very unpopular, but it's my show, so I can say it. I think the most dishonest part of the car buying process is the customer. The customer is the most dishonest person. They're always trying to screw the dealer. Always. Their credit's never what they say that it is. Their amazing trade comes in and it's not amazing. You know what I mean? Like they tell you, yeah, well, I'm really thinking about this payment, but in reality, they could go this way. So, they're just always on the defense, and it just screws everything up. And then the dealer has to we don't read minds, like if you're not really forthcoming with your information and you're guarded, then you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, but I think that that's a product of the distrust of dealerships. My sister was dating this guy for a while, and he was telling me, oh yeah, I went to buy a car and I negotiated just the way I was supposed to. And I didn't tell them I had a trade to the very last second, because that's what you're supposed to do. And I was like, no,
that's not what you're supposed to do.
The worst thing you could do. But that's what he thought that you were supposed to do, because there's all of this rhetoric out there that says the dealerships are so shady and you have to hold things close before you don't give too much. That dialogue has to change.
And that's what I mean. Like if we really had, the opportunity to really do full on, have that process done by one person, no hands off. They give you all the information. They run everything for you. There's no going to the desk and, oh, okay, I got to leave the deal and go behind the curtain and talk to the wizard to give me the number. There's none of that stuff. It's like you deal with me all the way through until you sign the papers, and we go and we wave you off in your brand new car. I think that at the very least, I feel like they would have a lot more trust in that experience would be better.
I think one price is the answer, right? And that's what builds trust. And
like
that's
no haggle.
Right. That's what Carvana has, and that's what Room has, right? That's the real separator, right? Nothing else, if you think about it.
But how do you do that with like financing and your credit and all that stuff? Like how do you bake that into?
Well, your credit, will affect the interest rate, but it really shouldn't affect the sale price. And F&I can be one price as well. You can say, hey, every vehicle service contract for a 4x4 American make, right, is going to be, I don't know, $3,200. Take it or leave it. It's when you go to buy a TV at Best Buy, right, and they say, an extended warranty for your TV is $300, and that is because the TV is $1,500. So it's 20% of your selling price, right? And it's not negotiable. There's no F&I, right? In Best Buy, yeah, just do it. You take it or you don't take it.
Right.
And again, the answer is very simple. To me, and I think we spoke about this before. To me, the real nightmare is when Amazon gets involved in this, right? Because Amazon is not going to have a salesperson or an F&I department. It's just going to be full disclosure. They're going to say, hey, Charity, would you like a vehicle service contract with that? And here are the pros, and here's the price, and click to add to cart. That's it. And we're going to sell ourselves right away, right? When Amazon is going to present you with this type of a proposition. Because most people understand they need to buy an extended vehicle service contract. It's not, hard.
But some don't. We do have those situations where they don't get it, and then they come back, and that's the other part that drives me insane. Well, you didn't get the warranty, dude. What are you complaining about? Like, what do you want me to do? Like, so you're gonna have those types of situations.
But look at it from a dealership perspective. Listen, I understand a lot of people, like Charity mentioned, right? They read something, right? And that article says when you go to see that evil guy in the F&I office, right? You just got to say no to everything he's offering,
right?
And like robots, they just say no, 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 right? But then I would say 99% of dealers, maybe even 99.9% of dealers, do not have a post-sale F&I follow-up process in place, right? The customer said no, and we forget about it, right? There's no BDC function. There's no F&I function to reach out to the customer 2 weeks later, whether by phone or by email, and say, hey, I know you said no to the vehicle service contract 2 weeks ago, but the environment has changed, right? The customer is now home, or the customer is at work. The guard is down. There's pride of ownership. They're no longer in a threatening environment, right? You can actually reason with these people at this point. Or you can do it by email and say, hey, here's a 20% coupon, right? Click here to buy.
Now more than ever, businesses need more efficient sales. That's why thousands of dealerships trust Foureyes to help with things like automated inventory email updates and ensuring all of your leads get into the CRM. To try Foureyes for free, visit foureyes.io/dealertalk. That's foureyes.io/dealertalk.
I was just talking about this with some people the other day. They called it micro moments. So they leave after they've bought the car, and then they get home and they realize that their wife can't get into the truck and they need steps. So that's the moment when you should be there going, hey, by the way, we've got all of this extra stuff that you can buy too. Or they ding the car because it's their brand new car and they don't know how to drive it. And then we call and say, hey, by the way, we have these paint options for your exterior. And I'd never even thought of that before. I'm pretty confident nobody around my office does that.
Nobody does that, period. So
yeah, I think that we have to. I agree. The part that I have, I kind of, it's just hard for me to wrap my head around, I guess, fully, is that the process, the interruption in the process. And I think interruptions cause distrust. And we're already at a disadvantage. And so the more we feed into that, it's like what I tell my dealers on the marketing side. Dude, you can't have all these partners and not have them communicate to each other when you're doing marketing, because we are at a disadvantage, and if you have one car with a special and it's published somewhere else and it has a different price than what you had over here, and then you go to another platform and it says something different, they don't trust you. So you have to bridge the gap between all these parties and make sure that everybody's talking to each other and that message is seamless. Right?
You just made my point for me. Price transparency.
Right. For sure. But in the process, in the human experience, when you're having that human experience, when you chop up, oh, okay, well, now you got to go see this other person. And then you chop it over here. Oh, you got to go see that person. I just feel like they're already like, dude, I know, because as a consumer, before I got into this industry, I felt the same way. It was always weird to me. So I'm just thinking about how, like if really this whole situation is gonna go to that ordering process, less inventory, decrease in staff, is this the opportunity in the industry as a whole to switch, to make a major shift in how the customer experiences their purchase, physically on location?
I think everybody thought that, because of COVID-19, COVID-19 would be the catalyst for digital retail, right? And everybody was wrong. Every expert, basically hit a brick wall, right? Because it had the opposite effect, right? I think it set back digital retail by at least 10 years. Because all the dealers that hated digital retail, they were all proven right.
Now they hate it even more. Yeah, exactly.
Right, because the bus full of customers actually pulls up to the dealership, right, without any effort, right, without any digital retail, and they buy a car the old-fashioned way. And this is across the country. I don't care if you're in California, New York, or Kentucky, right? Human nature is human nature. So I think we are, this is like a wishful thinking with build to order, because it will go back to normal. Somebody's going to blink, and you're going to go and say, well, the other guy has 27 Camrys to choose from, and you tell me I have to order mine here. Have a nice day.
Well, and there's that. Right on, man. No, well, we'll see. Time will tell. But if it does happen, then I think that a major is, yes, I'm going to stick with that. A major restructure of the in-person experience. This would be the perfect time to do it and really change that up.
You're right. And that would mean that you have to pay more attention to service, right?
Oh, for sure. So and that's not a conversation that a lot of people are having, but I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce the concept of, if you're not looking at what's going to happen to your service department in the next 3 years, you should be, because what's happening right now in the industry is definitely going to have an impact on fixed ops side of the house. And nobody's talking about that. Like, nobody.
Exactly, because there are less units in operation.
Yeah,
right.
For sure. For sure.
And nobody is. But again, you see, the way I see it is that these record-breaking profits have such a corrupting effect on the owner of any dealership. That you say, well, I'm going to worry about it later. Right now,
Yeah.
A Brinks truck pulls up every month. And what fixed stops, I mean, I know general managers that never been inside a service department.
Yeah.
They don't even know where it is.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. I'd say the vast majority, and it's just crazy to me. And this isn't a dig; it's just reality. I mean, I used to be a service manager, and like, most of the money is made, and if you're running it well, all of the money, like your whole operation, is covered through fixed ops, and selling is just, it's just gravy. That's dessert. But we put so much emphasis on the front of the house, and and I understand. Like, I'm not naive enough to think that all the money that we're making right now is not something that's going to, all your attention is going to be focused on that. But there's times coming, whether we're ready for it or not, and we definitely need to start thinking about that and having those types of conversations and setting our dealers up for success down the road.
I agree. And it's funny, like, even if you look at BDC, right? Most dealers have a BDC department strictly for sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, like, Service doesn't exist.
No service. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same function if you think about it, right? You have to follow up with customers, schedule appointments, make sure that they come in. It's mind-boggling if you think about it.
So we're talking, as we talk about the future and the impacts. There's one thing that I wanted to get your take on it, and I don't know if this falls into the realm of compliance, but it's definitely something that we should be a little concerned. These market adjustments, $4,000 or $5,000 or whatever, in some cases 10, 15,000. Like I know a dealer in California, again, not naming any names, but a couple of months ago, I got a call from I was having a conversation with the GM, and he just was like, "Oh, dude, we sold the only Tacoma that was around here, whatever. We made like $15,000 over price." I'm like, whoa. So, is that like what are your thoughts on that, man? How are we going to navigate that situation? And I guess the real question would be like, what do you foresee the impacts of that are going to be? Because there's going to be a lot of funky deals. And a lot of people it's going to be interesting to have those customers come back and see how are we going to get out of that?
Well, I think there's several things happening here. First, unfortunately, we're playing into the hands of Tesla, right? Because when you buy a Tesla, you pay list. You pay list today, you pay list tomorrow, you pay list yesterday, right? You don't pay over list. So if, let's say, I'm in a market for, a $40,000 sedan, a $50,000 sedan, I go to, let's say, an Acura dealership, and they say, Max, this Acura is $7,000 over MSRP, and I go to Tesla's website, I just pay MSRP. Maybe I was never interested in buying a Tesla, but you're forcing my hand. So we're playing into their hands. That's number one, right? Number two, I think we are turning people into last-time buyers, right? Because if you're paying $10,000 over list, and I know people are charging $15,000 over list for a Kia, at some point, math is math, and these vehicles will depreciate. And now, in addition to the regular depreciation, you got to depreciate the $10,000 and $15,000 over sticker that you paid. I think that the number of voluntary repossessions that's coming is going to be super alarming, because just put yourself in that buyer's position. Let's say you bought a car, you paid $15,000 over. 3 years later, everything is back to normal. You're driving by a dealership and you see the same car that you are driving for $20,000 less. Right? You're going to mail the key to the bank, and before your credit is ruined, you're going to go and buy this car.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. And I also think there's going to be a lot of buyer's remorse. You know what I mean? I think there's going to be a lot of people that are buying right now because, they need a car or whatever. And when the new car comes that they really, really wanted, they'll be like, oh, yeah, that's what I really wanted. And now I don't want this car anymore. And they're going to go to the dealer to try to get out of that deal. It's going to be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're buried,
Yeah.
And then you have an entire team of sales guys who doesn't know how to talk about negative equity.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Right. But this is like negative equity to an extreme.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I think, a lot of dealers will also, pay the price, right? Because yes, you can make a killing today, but you probably will never, ever see this customer again.
That's my biggest concern, Max. You just hit it. That's why I keep telling all my stores, like, guys, you gotta pay attention to. You gotta look at what's happening here. Yeah, the customer is buying, but go look at your reviews. Mm-hmm. Those reviews are becoming more about, yeah, I had to buy the car, but I had to pay X over. Never shopping there again. Yeah, I ended up buying the car here, but I paid this much over. I'm never shopping here again. Customers don't forget, man. They don't forget, and they're buying because they need to, or they're in some sort of distress situation, or whatever the case may be, or maybe they just got a bunch of cash laying around and they haven't traveled or whatever, and they're like, I want to buy a car. No matter what their motivation is, they will not forget those experiences, and it's going to be, yeah, man, that's going to suck.
Yeah, sure. and Tesla is going to come out smelling like roses, right? because you just pay list. It doesn't matter whether it's high price, low price, just list price. That's what you pay. There's no element of surprise. You know exactly how much you pay for the car. And again, it comes down to price transparency and a long-term vision.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, dealers, a lot of them don't have the discipline for long-term vision.
Well, and not just long-term vision, you got to get on board with the concept that things are changing, and you got to be in front of it, or you're going to be chasing it. And things are changing. You have companies like Tesla that are doing that, and you can't ignore that.
On the other end of the spectrum, now, if you really wanted to take advantage of this and go, be like really shine, just charge MSRP straight up. Tell your customers, hey, we're not playing that game. This is what it is. Think about the opposite effect that would have for you in the future, and talk about building trust and transparency and all these things. Like, imagine those customers being like, wow, shopping for that same car everywhere they go, it's X amount of dollars over MSRP, but you're holding hey, this is what the price is. So even selling that on MSRP is a win, because we typically we don't even make that.
Right. So I'll give you a perfect example, also without naming names, but there's one Mercedes dealership in New York that does exactly that. So if you're in the market for a Mercedes, no matter where you're going to go, they're going to tell you it's over. When you go there, they will say, listen, we will charge you MSRP because that's our policy, right? And only if you need to order something extraordinary, then there might be a surcharge. But if the car is in stock, it's on the showroom floor, what you see on the window sticker is what you're going to pay.
That's what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And listen, maybe they're giving up some profits for today, but they're looking at tomorrow. And I think after you go to multiple dealerships and you hear that everybody's over sticker, and finally you get it for sticker, you start thinking that the guy who sold you for sticker, is the best thing since sliced bread.
Oh, I think I can already see like at least 3 different marketing campaigns that you could do with that. There would be like
stickers quicker.
So good. Yeah. So, Charity, what about you? What do you see? Because you're dealing with customers all the time, like, on the phone and stuff in your department. What's your feedback on our customers' understanding of the situation? Do they complain? Is it kind of a mixed bag? Like, what's
a mixed bag? Well, I was thinking the thing that we were having a management meeting like last month, and we were discussing whether or not we should drop our market adjustment. And our concern was not then everybody buys the cars and then you don't have any cars to sell. And that was one of our concerns. But yeah, we do run into, it's a mixed bag. I had somebody call me out of California. She wanted a Camry TRD. We had one allocated to us. With the market adjustment, I think we were at like 37 or 38, but I had a used Camry TRD on the lot and it was 37. So it was really easy to explain to her what market adjustments were. But a lot of people they don't take that. They just think that you're trying to take money from them and taking advantage of the market. But this kind of goes back to when COVID first started and I was trying to make phone calls. You're still got to do your job. And what do you call and say? Hey, the world's ending. Come buy a car. So you have to
we'll deliver it. We'll deliver it to you.
Right.
See, that was the wrong. Okay. So that's one of the things.
Hang on. So you have to come up with a dialogue, like a conversation to have with the customer that's not just about selling cars. It creates a relationship. I think that market adjustments are the same way. You can't just say, because the rhetoric becomes COVID's happening and you guys are making money off of everybody else's suffering, I think is kind of the dialogue that we have.
But yes, but I mean, I don't know. So here, a couple of different things that you said there that I want to touch on. One, when it comes to the adjustment, I mean, that's economics 101, right? Like you have the supply goes up. I mean, demand goes up, supply goes down. It's more expensive. That's just that's how it is. Now you have an opportunity. Like it just depends on where you want to be on that. Kind of on that. What's your trajectory here? It's like you can take advantage of it on the marketing side. It'd be beautiful. Like I'm not going to do that. This is MSRP. This is what it is, and you go hard into the marketing. You drive that message home. On the other end, to your point, like if you don't have inventory to sell and you don't have cars and stuff, it just makes life harder. So you want to take advantage of not the customers per se, but it's the situation. So on the COVID, go ahead. On the COVID side of things, you just said something that was my biggest pet peeve. Is like when I was talking to customers, it's like, I can't call customers right now. Like, like the world is ending. When we're gonna dude, this is the perfect time to call the customer. You actually have a reason to call them. You actually have a reason to call them. Like I would have been like making those. Hey, I just want to let you know that things are rough right now. Whatever you need. I had dealers that were offering to take groceries to their customers and
that's what I did.
Kind of things to build that trust. And it's not, here's the thing, like I don't want it to sound gimmicky or a trick. It's not. It's your opportunity to get involved.
Right. I totally agree. And that's what I did. I mean, but that first initial, everything's shutting down and I'm still sitting in my office and I'm like, so definitely going to have to change the script here.
For sure.
I many years ago, I read this book by Andy Grove, Only the Paranoid Survive, right? And it had a profound effect on me, so I'm forever paranoid, right? So if I'm a car dealer, right, due to my paranoia, right, I wouldn't know if the inventory is coming or not, right? Because at this point, you don't know.
Nobody knows, yeah.
Nobody knows. So it's completely outside of your control, right? So whether you sell the car for over sticker or sticker, you still don't know if you're going to be able to replace it. So the only thing that you can control at this point is your F&I and parts and service, right? So all you have to do is refocus, right? So if you have no cars on the lot, let's call customers and bring them back to service, because if you don't have cars, nobody has cars.
Right.
And that means they have to service their existing cars. They can replace them.
Yeah.
Right? So let's pull up, every repair order with a declined service on it, right? Assuming we were, diligent enough to record it with an opcode that it was a declined service, right? Let's call these customers. Let's do a mailer, right? And get in touch with all people that have units in operation outside of warranty. Let's go for customer pay labor. We shouldn't be a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah.
When you bought the franchise, right? And I tell this to dealers all the time. When you bought the franchise, you didn't buy a sales department, right? You bought a service department, you bought a parts department, go take advantage of that. You can sell parts online, COVID or no COVID, right? I mean, parts are much easier to sell online than cars. And if you're really serious, right, about digital retail, why don't you master digital retail by selling an air filter first?
That's so true.
Figure this out, right? And you don't have to, listen, people don't negotiate on parts, right? It's a one price by default, right? So see if you can actually do it. See if you can put it on Amazon. See if you can sell it through Walmart's marketplace. See if you can sell it on your own website.
I'm gonna get really good at selling you this $40,000 car, but you can't buy an air freshener from me digitally.
Right.
That's awesome.
This is the sad reality. We have dealers, paying for, Roadster or Autify, all these digital checkouts, right? And to me, this is a fantasy. People, are not willing to do the whole process without human interaction. We're not at that point yet.
But they do.
But they are willing to buy an air filter.
Sure, but okay. So I agree. I don't think the numbers support it yet. Because even with COVID, it's not like all of a sudden we lost all this market share to the Carvanas and the Vrooms. My whole pet peeve with that whole situation is that they're doing it. Carvana's doing it. Like, there's no dealership. Like, you buy the car and it gets shipped to you. So does Vroom, and so do dealers. The only difference is that we don't promote it. Mm-hmm. We don't tell people that we do that. We don't put it on our websites. We don't do anything. But there is a process. Charity, you guys sell cars online, right? The customer never comes in.
We sell cars online
all the time.
The CJDR store that I used to work at, we sold all the time online, and we had a whole process for it. And it was really, really common way for us to sell cars.
But if I wanted to buy a car, can I go to your website and do that? Does it tell me? I mean, there's a digital retail widget on there, but that's not buying online. I hate when people, that's not buying online.
Well, I feel like that there's a lot of resistance on the dealer, at the dealer level, about buying online. Like, it's there. You could do it if you wanted to, but they're resistant to it. Well, we have to have them sign these papers. We have to send a notary out to them because we don't want to. I mean, like, there's 1,000 excuses for why not to do it. And I think it's just the unknown a lot.
It's the fear of disclosing the price. Because if you disclose the price, the paranoid mind tells you that your competitor is going to sell it for $1 less. Right? And somehow Carvana and Vroom, they have the internal discipline to say, that's fine. They can sell it for less. If you go and look at prices on Carvana, they're not giving cars away.
Well, they can't.
But they're not. And people are willing to pay that premium, because that's how much they're willing to pay not to deal with car dealers. That's the premium that they're paying. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, the jury's still out on that whole thing. I do listen, there's no question that it's the future, and there's no question that that's going to be. I think right now we're in this place where we're at a generational shift. Like, people from my generation, like all the people that I talk to in my circle of friends and stuff, they wouldn't buy a car online unless it was some sort of luxury car or something like that. The majority of the customers grew up with going to the dealership with their parents and all that stuff, and that's how they're going to buy.
That's why Tesla is so appealing, right? Tesla model was so appealing because you can order the car online, or you can go to their store and order the car there from a human being.
Well, I just read a study that was talking about how what generation is this?
Gen Z is the next one. Yeah.
They would rather talk to a robot online than a human. I mean, that's huge. If they would rather talk to a person, then they're going to be buying a lot differently than we're buying.
And that's what I mean. Like, I know my kids for sure, no questions. They'll press the ship now button all day long. They'll never go to the dealer. Like, that's just the way that it is. But we hold the power still for now. So I think there's still, at least a couple decades of a mixture between the two, with maybe the digital acquisition side going up. And we got to figure it out. We got to figure it out.
Like, my daughter's 20, and we were just having this conversation, and she was like, I wouldn't walk into the dealership and buy a car from you, Mom. Sorry, that's not going to happen. So I don't think it's as far off as I think it's closer than a couple of decades. I think the shift is happening right now.
No. Yeah, to my point, it is. But I'm just saying there's still going to be people, like, I'll still buy a car physically, the rest of my life. I feel like people within my circle, just from the conversations that I've had, they would do the same thing. Even if they could buy online, which they can, they would still prefer to go smell it, drive it. They would still prefer to do all those things before they pay. But I think we're going to definitely start seeing more and more and more and more a shift, right? And we have to be ready for that. My frustration with that whole point is that we already do it. We already do it. We don't tell people.
I don't know if we already do it. I don't know.
What do you do it? Charity, you do it all the time, don't you? Like
We do, and we'll send them the papers and everything. It's pretty. They've been doing it for years.
it's
But
not
it's
like
still
dealers
a
haven't done it.
fraction of your business. It's a fraction of your business. It's not a majority of your business. And if you look at all these, the gimmicks they have on the website for digital retail, I guarantee you there's less than 1% of completion from A to Z.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. Like, Charity, correct me if I'm wrong, but your virtuals don't happen through
Right.
digital retail.
They don't happen. And that what you were saying, I was thinking, we don't even have buttons. This is like a conversation that you have. Hey,
Right.
we can deliver
But
that.
that's Carvana, guys. That's Carvana. Nobody buys a car from Carvana digitally. They just don't. It's a BDC department. They call you and they do the deal by the phone, on the phone.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, we already do it. We just don't promote that. We don't tell people. We want to keep that so hidden from the public. Like, only.
Well, and I would say that it's not that we already do it. It's not that we don't promote it. I think we resist it even.
That's what exactly.
Secret.
And because we resist it, we don't market for it. We don't promote it, and we don't tell people that hey, you want to buy it online? Great. Here are the 4 or 5 steps that you have to do, or call this number, or just put, I know this sounds crazy, just putting a form on your site, but put really ? Do you really want to buy this online? Fully fill this out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, but then listen, you're talking about an Apple model, right? You can buy, a MacBook Air in the Apple store, on Apple's website, at another retailer like Best Buy. But again, it's only because the price is the same. Unless dealers face the facts that it is I'm convinced it is all about price transparency. That's the area of contention between the consumer and the dealer. And that's what Carvana and Vroom understand. That's it. Their cars are not better, right? Their financing is not better. None of it is better. Their price is not better, but it is a disclosed price. That's all it is.
Right on. Well, we can have this conversation for another 2 hours, but we're getting close to that time. So, Max, thanks again for doing this, dude. I really appreciate it. It's a good conversation. Charity, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
Really appreciate
Thank you for having me.
Talking to both of you. And Max, our first LinkedIn Live, man. Thank you, dude. Awesome.
I know. It's not easy to get approved. I mean, kudos to you, for getting it done.
That's what people kept telling me. I was like, okay, well, I don't know whatever they saw, but thank you. Dude, so I want, obviously I have a question that I ask everybody that comes on the show, but tell us really, really quick, anything going on, any new books? Cause I know you have a couple of great books out there.
I wrote 4 books and I think that's enough for now. I wish, people would read one of them at least,
Right here, man.
So listen, I just hope, that dealers take advantage of this amazing time, right? And use the profits that they're making to really build a foundation for the future, because the future is unknown, but you can take proactive steps to make it better in terms of employee retention, in terms of customer retention, and it's all going to come down to the decisions that you make today.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Charity, any final thoughts?
No, I thought that was a good end.
Yeah, hard to stop that one, huh? All right. Well, as you all know, there is a question that I ask everybody that comes on the show, and that question is, where do you see the automotive industry headed in the next 5 years, and why?
Nothing's going to change in the next 5 years.
We're here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think nothing's going to change in the next 5 years. I think it'll be all the same, and dealers will continue to be in denial about Carvana's success. They're going to continue doing what they're doing today. And that's it. I think car dealers are not prone to change.
Right on. Well, there you have it, folks. Max Zanan, thank you again so much, sir, for doing this. Really, really appreciate it. It's a great conversation. Charity Ann, thank you for co-hosting with me. Hopefully we'll do a couple more of these together. That's all the time that we have for today, everybody. And as usual, we'll talk later.
We only host a well-respected. The vendor LexisNexis. We don't sell digital marketing. What you do? We inspect it with our DT vendor management solutions. We come in like the EPA to clear out the pollution. Take the trash out. Go keep your P&L clean. Your inventory lean.
Now more than ever, businesses need more efficient sales. That's why thousands of dealerships trust Foureyes to help with things like automated inventory email updates and ensuring all of your leads get into the CRM. To try Foureyes for free, visit foureyes.io/dealertalk. That's foureyes.io/dealertalk.